The sand plague picks its victims fastidiously, and the same principle always draws it back to whoever tries to oppose it. Surprisingly, we've yet to hear a single word from the powers that be.
Pathologic is a 2005 Russian horror adventure game from the company Ice Pick Lodge, who later went on to develop games like The Void and Knock Knock. While critically acclaimed in its home country, Pathologic is relatively unknown in English-speaking gaming communities and can be confusing for those who aren't sure where to start. With the release of the remake, now is a great time to explain where exactly you might like to begin if Pathologic intrigues you. This is a video intended for new fans and people who are curious about the game, so it probably won't contain any new information for people who are already familiar with it. Please feel free to watch anyway, and share it with someone you might otherwise have to give a long-winded explanation to. The game has 3 routes, each with a different player character and storyline. They all take place during the same 12 days, and the goal of each character is to cure the plague that is spreading through a steppe town built along the River Gorkin. Many major events overlap in the routes, and they technically take place congruently, but they have vastly varied perspectives and different depictions of the town's goings-on. It's impossible to absorb the game's full story without playing all 3. The Bachelor and Haruspex routes are available upon starting the game, but the Changeling can only be unlocked after the game has been completed once. The first release of the game is of course the original Russian version, known in its native language as More Utopia. This title is a reference to Thomas More's writings on Utopia, while also playing on a Russian term for pestilence or plague. Released in English as Pathologic, the machine-automated translation of this version can be a challenging read but is incredibly poetic. While not necessarily a bad translation, it can be intimidating and confusing to people who are unused to or not able to parse the writing style, and those who are unfamiliar with the game's mechanics. This version of the game is unfortunately no longer available for purchase. In 2014, IPL launched a storytelling ARG called Feverish Feeling. A link to a Reddit thread chronicling all of the ARG's content can be found in the video description, but it will probably make little sense to anyone not already acquainted with the game's universe, and should be treated as a sort of bonus story with ties to the world and plot. This ARG began the countdown to the announcement of a Pathologic remake, which was quickly funded by fans on Kickstarter. IPL felt that with better technology and budgeting, more time, and their acquired experience in game development, they could bring to life something more akin to their intended vision with Pathologic. The remake was picked up by the publisher TinyBuild in 2018 and given the new title of Pathologic 2. Despite this title, it is not a sequel. It is a remake and a reimagining, and it isn't required for players to be familiar with the original game in order for them to enjoy Pathologic 2. In 2015, IPL released Pathologic Classic HD, the game's first incarnation available on Steam. With an HD title released after the confirmation of a remake, the addition of Classic HD to the equation seems to be where things get convoluted for new fans. Pathologic HD is a version of the original game meant to be more accessible for both new and old fans. This version has a reworked translation, updated textures and graphics effects, and new voice acting tracks. The new script's main intention is to preserve and localize the Russian wordplay present in the original script. It is rife with puns and rhymes, but can be undetailed in its interpretation, and sometimes lacks certain information that is in the first translation. If the world of Pathologic captures you, I would really recommend giving both versions of the game a try. In 2016, the remake's first playable alpha was released. This is known as the Marble Nest, and was playable at a couple of gaming conventions as well as distributed to Kickstarter backers of certain tiers. This alpha is no longer available by viable means, and contains an alternate universe scenario from the perspective of the Bachelor. The story is a short one-off, and none of its content is canon to the actual game's plot. As it was intended to show off the general mechanics of the remake, and as a platform to receive feedback from Kickstarter backers, it is unlikely that the Marble Nest will see any future releases. There was also a Pathologic tabletop game released in 2016. This is a 2 to 4 player game in which one player takes the role of the plague and the others play as one of the 3 healers. It is based on Pathologic, but is not a necessary installment in the universe's canon. The game has been ported to Tabletop Simulator on Steam by a fan, which means you can play out fun bonus activities such as flooding the board with dozens of Andres or increasing Artemi's size in tiny increments until one of the other players notices. 2018 saw the release of the second alpha, which contained the first 3 days of the Haruspex route. It was announced that the remake would be releasing serially, one route at a time, beginning with the Haruspex. A second, shorter alpha was released 1 month before the first complete installation of Pathologic 2, which is now available on Steam. It should be noted that, although Pathologic 2 is a remake, it differs in many ways from the original and is not a one-to-one scale reproduction. Pathologic takes place in a steppe town often referred to as the town on Gorkin, the name of the river it is built around. Unique, isolated, and anachronistic at times, the town is the home of the Bull Project, a title which refers to the indigenous steppe natives known as the Kin, and their industrialization at the hands of the town's powerful ruling families. The 3 protagonists all arrive in the town as a deadly plague is beginning to spread. Each one has a group of town residents tied to their fates, whom they must keep alive if they want to accomplish their goals. The Bachelor route is a good place for a new player to start. You play as an outsider to the town, a bachelor of medicine and practicer of thanatology named Daniel Donkovsky, who travels to the town to meet an alleged immortal man whose existence could prove that defeating death is possible. Upon arriving, he finds that the man in question has been murdered under mysterious circumstances. The player starts the game off with a high reputation as well as a decent amount of money, and is given time to figure out the mechanics of the game before things take a turn for the worst. The Bachelors bound are the Utopians, iconoclasts who wish to use the town's land as the birthing grounds of a utopia. While the Bachelor has a relatively stressless beginning, the Haruspex route does not grace the player with such a gentle introduction. You play as Artemi Burak, a native of the town returning home after 10 years away studying medicine. He arrives to find that his father, a town doctor known as a Manku, has been killed, and he is being blamed for the murder. Because of this, the route begins with the player being chased by townfolk and with a reputation too low to barter at any stores. As a rite of Artemi's heritage, the player is given the ability to craft medicines using human organs and herbs found growing in the steppe, a mechanic not available in the other 2 routes. The Haruspex bound are the termites, the town's children who may someday grow up to shape its future. As previously stated, the Changeling route can only be selected if at least one other route has been played to completion. In this route, you play as a young girl named Clara, who wakes in an open grave and cannot remember anything about her origins. Clara considers herself a miracle worker, and when playing as her, most combat is replaced by her uncanny ability to kill and heal simply by touching someone with her bare hands. Along with her strange, seemingly holy power comes the mystery of who Clara is and why everyone seems to believe that she is wreaking havoc among the town. The Changelings bound are the Humbles, townfolk described as wicked people with sinister secrets. These are of course very simple summaries, and the plots of each route go much deeper than what I've described. Pathologic is a text-heavy game with themes of horror, and it does deal with adult themes including drug use, violence, and a lot of death. It can be difficult at times, due to both the survival-based nature of the game and certain shortcomings within the gameplay itself. While not suited to everyone's taste, it is a poignant, beautiful experience with a lot to offer to those who are able to put in the effort needed to play it. I can promise it is unlike anything else you've ever played. Pathologic is real, and I was there when it happened. I hope you were able to learn something from this video. If Pathologic interests you, I plan to make a video covering the mechanics, as well as some tips, tricks, and fun facts that could make the original game easier for new players. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you again in the future.